Well, hello once again, everybody. We're here for another live NoLimits 2 tutorial session. Ready to show you all more about how to present all of the cool and amazing creations that you can do in NoLimits 2. Really, the sky is the limit, that and what your computer can handle. So the next thing after you've created this amazing roller coaster creation of yours is to figure out how are you going to present it and show it off to the world. So we're going to look at a few different topics today. We're going to be looking at how to use the built-in flat rides and how to make good use of them, along with some of the other basic park objects that we've included with the game for you. We're going to look at a few other elements, including how to use lights so that you can light up your coasters in an effective way that makes them look that much more dramatic. And we're going to show you how to use the built-in camera angles so that when you're taking screenshots and video of your favorite NoLimits 2 creations or the new one that you're trying to show off to the world, show you how you can take some much more dramatic shots of that and really create something that's rather engaging and exciting to look at. So quite a few different things that we're going to look at today. Of course, we're hanging out right now inside of Tango Park in NoLimits 2. This park is used to demonstrate a number of the advanced features in NoLimits 2. On display, we have the light panel editor, which I won't be talking about today, but that's what's doing the pattern of the flashing lights around the loops outside. We also, of course, have Tango, which is a rather spectacular flat ride, both in real life and the way that we put it together here. It was used as a demonstration of the scripting ability, along with a number of other specialty functions for lights and a few other things. We will be the first to admit that it is not the most optimized ride in the world. It is rather high poly, and the lighting effects that are going on are extremely processor intensive. Again, this was not designed to run efficiently or to look spectacular in VR and everything like that. It was designed really to show off what the engine and the scripting is capable of and use that as an example so everybody out there who's creative can use the things that and the ideas that are on display here, take them and go with them to make their own creations from there. So basically just lots of ideas on display in this park so that you can take it and run with it from there. So let's get into the meat of things from here. Let's first of all, we'll talk a little bit more about how to place various objects inside of your park. So to do that, let's go ahead and pull up a different park that'll be a little bit easier to work in. Instead, we're going to go into our editor and we're going to open up recent park here, good old Peninsula Park, which is going to be a park that features one roller coaster called the Keymaster, which many of you are going to recognize what we are really talking about. And hopefully enough of you got the subtle joke in the name there to see for exactly why we called it the Keymaster. Waiting for everything to open, give it just another moment here. Alright, so here we go. We have the park. This is one that I built for the update to show off the Wing Rider coasters. This was a very good coaster to show that off with. Very basic park though, not a lot going on around it. It had the original Ferris wheel in the background, and it had the observation tower here. Of course, the real park that this ride is based on no longer has the observation tower, which is too bad, although it looked quite spectacular as it came down. So this will be a good spot so that we can really demonstrate a few of the basic ideas involved with creating and using some of the built-in flat rides, some of the other park scenery objects, how to use lights, and then later we'll fly around with the cameras and show you how and what all those various camera options do. Alright, so first off, let's start placing some rides. Now the real ride, of course, the real park does have a Ferris wheel nearby, and it has a giant swing nearby. So we'll go ahead and get both of those placed. First thing we need to do, of course, find a nice little spot to place these various items and objects. Let's see here. I think the giant swing is should be right about in here. I don't know the layout of the real park that well. Should be right about in here somewhere, and it swings this way. So I'm going to go ahead and move these trees out of the way so I've got plenty of room to work. And one thing we did with the flat rides is we built them in such a way that you have options on how you place them. You can either place them exactly as they are, or you can include a second piece of them for lighting. So let's see, or for loading safety. Let's take a look and see what we have going on here. First of all, I'm going to go into the library here and go up to default. And let's see here. We're going to scroll down to rides in the park library. These are all things that are included for your use inside of NoLimits. And NoLimits 2 in all your parks. Feel free to use them and place them everywhere you like. And you notice there's quite a few different things in here, and some of these seem to be duplicated. Let's take a look at the purpose. We have the giant swinging disc ride, and then we have the giant swinging disc railing. These are in two different parts, and the reason for that is that you can have the railing as an optional add-on. You can either use the railing that we've included, or if you're so inclined, you can build your own railing and create space around and basically enclose it on your own. It's very similar to what we did with station objects, so that you have the option with a station to either use our completely pre-built procedural station, or you can get rid of the roof and build your own roof on top of it. You can get rid of the building entirely and just use our animated gates, or you can get rid of all of it and just have the functionality of the station platform and build your own station on top of that. So to see how this all works, let's go ahead and bring in a giant swinging disc. All I have to do is click on it, hit OK. We've chosen which ride we want to add here. Now we need to actually add the object, so we click on our Add Object button. We're going to go ahead and place it wherever we want. We'll go ahead and place it, put the snap on to make it a little bit easier. Snap is good because of what we're going to do in terms of lining things up. I'm going to put it right there. Thanks for a moment. And plunk, there it is in place. Now I know with the entryway, this is the entryway. It's going to swing this way for this particular ride. It's not quite how I want it to swing. I want it to swing this way. So I'll go back to Select and Modify. Click on it. I've got this rotation gizmo. Now, this rotation gizmo allows quite a few different things that we can do with it. For the ride, I can do a number of different things. We have a rotation gizmos down here, which allows you to change, to spin the coaster or the item in a few different ways. These rings indicate the direction that it's going to rotate. So this ring here will tilt it this way and that way, which would look rather silly. We don't want to do that. This one here will allow us to spin it horizontally on this axis. So that's more along what I want to do. We'll get back to that in a second. And then, of course, we have this one, which I could use to tilt it this way and that way. Again, for a flat ride, not really what I want to do. There's other objects you may actually want to do this for, which we'll show a little bit more when we get to the lights. Those are the rotation gizmos. Here we have the gizmo to slide it around various axes. If you click in the middle, you can move it around all of them at the exact same time. In 3D space, that's not very useful. Instead, in 3D space, the easier way to work with it is to use the handles that are pointing in specific directions. So you can move just along that particular axis. I can't go any other direction. I can just move along that particular axis. I can move along this particular axis. And I can move up and down on this particular axis. So that works pretty well there. So there is the basic placement of the ride. I wanted to rotate it so that it's facing north-south, or swinging north-south rather than east-west. Grab the handle vertically here, rotate around, and voila, there we go. Now it is swinging north-south. Now you notice over here the rotation was smoother and here it wasn't. That's because I have snap turned on the overhead view on my right. Snap is not turned on the view on the left. You can actually choose per viewport whether or not you do or do not want to have snap turned on. For snap is very handy. It snaps to the grid and you can snap in terms of the rotation points. Very handy there. Sometimes you want to make very precise movements. You may not want snap on. You can turn that off or leave it on in one viewport and off in another. Very handy feature. All right, so I have my basic ride and I've got stairs leading up to it in and out. But you notice the way that the ride is set up. It does have the animated floor that you need. That's already built in there. It's got stairs so you can go in and out. However, you notice there's no safety railings here. Well, this is designed very specifically so that you can build your own enclosure for the ride or theme the entire area around it. You can sink it down to the floor and do that if you wanted to. Although, remember the bottom part, you can't get rid of the bottom station loading portion here with the loading platform. It's really an integral part of the ride. You can't really get rid of that. So you could build a hole in the ground and wherever you want and then place it in there and you'll have a little bit of a concrete pad that is nice and flat. So very handy there. All right, let's take a look and see what the next piece is, which is adding in the safety railings and see how to get those to line up. So now we're going to go back to Add Object. Actually, we're going to go back to Choose. We will add the object. We're going to go down to the giant swinging disc railing. Choose that. There we go. And now we're ready to add that object. We're going to add it right here. Let's see what happens. You can see from overhead a few things occurred here. We'll zoom in to make it a little bit easier. Now you notice that it has cutouts for those stairs that we were just looking at. Go back to Select Modify. It has cutouts for those stairs, which it's not currently lined up with. And you'll notice, of course, also that something seems to be weird. It's on top of the arms. What happened there? Well, let's look in 3D. It's all the way floating up there in space. Wonder why it's up so high. Well, the reason for that is that the main ride itself has kind of this big bounding box in terms of how much space it takes up there. You can see the box there. And to avoid collision, the engine assumes automatically you do not want to place this automatically inside of this, so it's going to jump to the top of the bounding box like that. That's okay. You can just click on that particular one, and you can bring it all the way down where you need. And now it's just a simple matter of aligning it with the other ride. Now, since I moved it vertically, the other ride or the main part of the ride vertically in various space, I'm going to go ahead and move them both to a good spot. Move that about there. Move this one up here to match, and we got to do a few things to line it up. So one thing we need to do, first of all, let's go ahead and rotate this so that it's also been turned 90 degrees. Good. And now we got to get it to line up perfectly. I'm going to turn the snap off for this. Some people may be wondering, why didn't we include this all as one piece? Why are they two separate pieces? Again, the reason is so that you have the option of going with it or without it. So it's just a matter of getting it lined up as close as you can. There we go. I'm actually going to use the arrow keys. That's too far. They're snapping a little bit further. That's okay. Just get it lined up to about where you need it. And there we go. So it is designed to sit there and line up flush. So there we go. That's good enough for now. Good enough for demonstration purposes. And of course, the other thing I need to do is to get it to line up vertically with the side of that platform. I'm going to go right here and line it right about there. Perfect. All right. So now you have this nice platform, and the way that this particular one is built, you can see that it's designed to kind of be mounted and hang off the side, allowing you to place this anywhere you want and kind of have it up high. And you have a nice safety railing all the way around it. So that ride is done. We're pretty much set in terms of the placement of that ride. That's all you had to do for that. Let's go ahead and do the same thing again with another ride. We're going to go ahead and add the Ferris wheel nearby. Let's be close up of all those motors. All right, so we're going to put the Ferris wheel over here somewhere. We can go choose the next one. Let's go up to that. There's the big Ferris wheel. Now you might wonder why you wouldn't want to add the railing first and then would the Ferris wheel pop right on top. No, you'd have the same problem where due to the bounding box, it would go up over, it would land on top of the Ferris wheel. So it's perfectly fine. You can add them in there. It is the extra step if you want to have the two halves of it together. Again, we like to give options and freedom so that you can choose whatever you want to do. Chosen our big Ferris wheel, we're going to go ahead and just add the object. Kerplop. There it is, and I'd much rather have it going this way, like the real life area. Oops, not that. I want to click on it. And we're going to rotate it around. Actually, to make it easy, I'm going to snap rotate so that it does an even 90 degrees. In fact, I'll even do it off axis to make it fancier. There we go. Once again, we're going to add another object. I'm going to add in, oops, I got to choose it first. Big Ferris wheel railing and station loading area. Very good. Now we're going to go ahead and add that in as well. So this is a particularly curious object, as you can see that the footers for the big Ferris wheel are also included in the railing object, not in the Ferris wheel. It does give you options if you want to do if you wanted to set it up differently. There we go. And now it's just a matter of placing it correctly. Nope, I don't want to move the tree. There we go. That's just about the right placement. See, this is where snap really comes in handy because you can get things to line up very quickly to where you need them. It looks like everything's good. I'm going to go fly in there and take a look. This one almost lined up in the right spot. Yep, actually they're both flooding up a little bit. You can see the railing is where it needs to be. Up, the stairs are almost there. You can see we're close, but we're not quite there in terms of that. Plus you have the whole ride floating above the ground. Why is it floating? Well, it took a flat point that was somewhere a little bit further away, and that's where it decided to place itself. So that's okay. It's just a matter of lowering the whole thing down to the ground. Let's take care of both of those aspects right now. In fact, I will do it with the page up, page down. Cool thing is that the arrow keys and page up and page down allow you to move objects around the editor without using your mouse. So you can move things in very precise staggered amounts by using the arrow keys. You can use page up and page down to move things up and down quickly. So one page down was all I needed to do to drop the railing. One page down for the Ferris wheel, dropped at the same amount. And we're pretty much almost lined up again. But we still have a floating platform. Actually, it looks like the platform may need to go down further. The Ferris wheel needs to go down further. That's what it is. So I'm going to lower the Ferris wheel a little bit more. There we go. That looks almost better. Almost. Okay, so now we just have to line up the platform object here, which I think is what I've got going. There we go. Okay. So now it's just a matter of fine-tuning and adjusting it to get it to just the right position. In fact, it'll be easier to see it on this side and then move it in the vertical space. Okay. that to line up there. I want to get this, and you can see exactly where the railings are designed to go. It's just a matter of getting them to the right spots. Nope, that way the snap on. Turn the snap on for a second. There we go. That's about right. No, that isn't quite right. We're almost there. Should be right about flush there. It has to go down just a little bit. And now, and back slightly. Almost there. There it goes. Okay, now you can see that now this posts are lined up where they should go, and everything looks great. The footers are buried slightly, which is okay, so it looks like the Ferris wheel might be in this interesting position. It's more or less where it needs to be at this point. Oh, that's the platforms. That's right, the platform controls the footers, which always makes the Ferris wheel a little more interesting to work with. And this does not to line up at all right now. Too far back. That's getting better. Been a while since I worked with the Ferris wheel. So we're almost lined up. Almost. Come on, guys. You can line up. There we go. Now this is about as exciting as watching grass grow, which is going to be next week's session. We will be watching virtual No Limits grass grow. It's a new feature coming out. Should be quite exciting for everybody. There you go. All right, so now the posts are lined up with the footers, and the stairs are actually going into the ground. That's fine. You do end up with this kind of interesting little thing here where you have grass that's kind of sticking through. That's a little detail that the auto grass, that's because we have the grass texture under there, and that's easy enough to deal with. All you have to do, go into your terrain, and since we have the auto, and this one I've already set up asphalt as one of the extra terrain layers, so we're just going to go ahead and paint that under there. I'll make it a little bit bigger, maybe 4 points of influence. Paint a little bit of a path coming in here. Paint layer, good, and there we go. And then you can see as I paint some asphalt underneath it, then it automatically takes away the automatic grass, which is perfect for what we need. So that way you don't have grass sticking through the platform and looking kind of silly. Look from the overhead so it's easier to see. There you go. You can even connect a path. I'll put some around here for the same reason. I might as well make a little path that connects everything together here. There you go. So we've got some walkway in place of some asphalt, so that makes it look a little bit better. A little bit of a plaza there. All right, so the basics of what we need there to have a nice little walkway, and you'll see over here the stairs for the giant swing, which I have lost. There it is. The giant swing. Now you no longer have grass sticking through the stairs there. Very good. You do see that you have kind of this weird cut of the train going in there. That's easy to fix as well. You just need to modify the markers. We're going to go down to 1 point of influence because I just need to do a little bit of fixing right there. And because I have grass chosen as the auto paint for some there, we're just going to go ahead and paint that layer to be asphalt again. There you go. Perfect. So now it doesn't look as bad. Those little details do add a lot in terms of everything. So they really do. You notice them when you have the ground clipping through the stairs, them crazy little ways like that. You definitely got to fix those just to make it look a little sharper. There you go. Okay, perfect. So that looks a lot better. Okay. And I notice that this over here we have our observation deck. It does not have its railing. I'll go ahead and add its railing in. I'm going to add the railing object here. So once again, we go to our scenery tab. We are going to choose the object that we want. In this case, it's going to be the, where did it go? Gyro drop. The gyro tower railing. And we want to add that object. We're going to go ahead and add that right there. There we go. Let's see where it ended up. And it looks like it's in the right position. Vertically, it looks like it's lined up just about exactly where it needs to be. This time we haven't gone off axis, which is good. It's just about there. I'll move things a little bit. No, I think it was in the right spot to begin with. Okay. Yeah, we are where we need it to be, which is good. The only problem you'll notice, of course, is that it's not here. It's all the way up there at the top. So let's go ahead and bring the that object down. That's going to have to hold the page down key. Bring it back down to Earth where we need it. And when it's down here, you can see the posts are extra long, just allows you to kind of easily slide it into place. Get your realistic height and touch down. There you go. All right, now we've added a railing to our gyro top. See, pretty easy to use these things. You can see how they're all going and how everything works together. And how all the rides are designed to work together. Now there's one more ride that I'm going to show you that has a couple of extra pieces for it. We'll go ahead and add one more ride in here. I'm going to choose the, there it go, the free fall catapult. This actually has 3 pieces to it. We'll go ahead and start by adding in, where do you want to put it? I'll just put it over here is fine. I'm going to add the free fall catapult right here. We're going to choose the other 2 pieces that go with it. Free fall catapult railing. Of course, we know what that is. Make sure that that's in the right spot. Just not quite yet. That ride, or the railing, there we go. So now the railing is lined up with where it needs to go. This one's much easier because it's just around the loading area. There it is. Both of those are not on the ground at the moment because they chose to fly a little bit higher. That's okay. Easy to get in there. Too far down. Oh, come on. Okay. Bring that up so that we have a nice little concrete pad sitting right there on the ground for it. Perfect. Of course, we have all that grass sticking through. How do we solve that? Go into terrain. Once again, we're going to paint that layer. Make it a little bigger just so that it covers a bigger area at once. And let's get rid of all that. Put a new layer in there, get rid of all that grass. Like that, perfect. Okay. Now, of course, we still have this railing up here. It needs to come on down. And railing, come on down. Let's get you lined up with where you need to go. Holding page down, and here it comes. That looks just about good right there. I don't think I need to do much more to it. Try up and down a little bit just to get there. Perfect. Done. All right. Now all of these flat rides that we've included, they're all rideable. You can walk up to them and ride them. So let's see the one extra piece that we have that we're going to add to our free fall catapult ride. We choose the free fall catapult lights. We've animated some nice little fairground style lights that we can add. And add those in the same general spot. These are a little trickier to place because they are a specific decorative element that lines up very precisely with ours. And of course, it also has placed itself up high in the sky. Let's bring it down to Earth. And you can literally look at the top to line this one up. Let's see here. Make sure that they line up properly. Maybe go up a little bit higher. That's okay. Not all the way to the top yet. Yes, okay, perfect. Now, they almost look like they're lined up correctly here. I think I may have landed it correctly in the first try. Almost. They're so close to exactly where it needs to be. So, this is where this little gizmo really comes in handy. Now they're just designed to sit inside of these big main beams here. They're just kind of set on either side so that they're out of the way, because these main beams, of course, are where the wheels run in real life. There, just a little bit. There we go. Oops, and as I'm a perfectionist, it's about even on that side. Or about even on both sides here. Perfect. All right, so now we have this cool animated light scheme there. It looks very reminiscent of a real-life version of that ride. Go ahead and save our work. And we're going to leave the editor for now. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and connect all of these rides with some extra terrain asphalt that I had set up earlier, just so that you can actually walk from each one all the way across, and I'll drop a few other things in here too. So we're going to go ahead and 4 points again, paint layer. Already have some more asphalt over here. Continue walking so you can walk over to the tower catapult ride, and then over to the observation deck. And then I'll make another path so you can walk over to the station of the coaster. Perfect. Good enough for now. Alright, and then I'll move trees so I don't have any trees growing out of the asphalt because that just looks silly. Okay, so now that we have that in place, let's go ahead and add a few other objects I'll show you about. We do have some park light objects, which are rather nice to use. Go back to our scenery tab. We're going to choose these. Now the beauty of all this scenery is that everybody has this stuff. It's included with NoLimits 2, so you don't have to do anything at all in terms of what you about putting it inside the park folder or anything like that. You just go ahead. All of these items are included for everybody. Other custom objects you may make, you may have to place it inside of the parks folder so that when you save it as a package and export it, those special objects go with it. These ones everybody has. You don't have to do anything special for that. All right, so we're back in the library here. We're going to take a look at our various options that are available to us. We're going to go to, let's see what's under various. Nope, that's not the one I wanted. Background, nope, it's under lights, I believe. Oh, there's demo objects. We have a few things in here. There's somewhere where I've got a few things. Let's move up a second here. There we go, it's under park. So here we have benches. Always important for benches to be in your park, especially so you can have bench the ride in there. Trash can. Based on the park that we have, that we're basing this one on, we're going to need about 500 of these in the park. So I'm just going to start spamming them in here all over the place every 5 feet. We're going to just add lots of trash cans because the real life park that this is based on, you can't go 5 feet without finding a trash can. That's okay. We love the park. We're just teasing it a little bit. Midways they've got this nice grid of trash cans. Anyways, it's a little silly, but there you have a lot of trash cans involved. You can see that I've placed them all over the place. Looks about right for the park, right? And if anybody has ever thrown anything away at that park that has not made it into a trash can, you're really not trying very hard. Okay. We'll go ahead and add a few more objects. Of course, we can have some benches. You can add those in. Those are easy to do. Click and place them wherever you want. Once you place it, you can then, of course, it's based to move into select modify mode and turn it to line it up however you need to. And now you have a nice park bench. Plenty of places to throw things away, only one place to sit down. Excellent. All right. Now the other thing we're going to add is we do have a number of lights. We have this park lamp, but I actually have a better selection of lights. When you go in here, or it's in a different folder higher up, it's going to be in, oh, we're in the right spot. So this is the park library, scene objects, and I thought we had I know there's a folder in here for it. Nope, that's the rides, I know that. And park, no, I think it's in demo objects actually. That's right, demo lights, there they are. So we have a lot of park lamps in here, and we'll be talking a little bit more about those lights in just a second. For now, it's easy to add these particular parks, these lights. You can see that they are already kind of set. We're going to go and place one of these. Now there's a difference between park lamp 1, 1B, and 1C. One is just, these are all the same model. They look exactly the same as you can see from the thumbnail. The difference is going to be the look of it. This one is just a simple point light that'll light up the area. This one will have kind of this little halo effect going on in terms of, not really halo, but you can kind of see the light a little bit, kind of reminiscent if it's a little bit foggy and things like that. And then finally you have the lamp C here. Now this one, the difference here is that this one will cast shadows. It's already pre-built in. Shadows are cool. However, shadows also are much harder to process everything in real time. Shadow casting lights are nice. However, of course, they can be tricky because they are going to be there's an expense in terms of performance when you add lots of shadow casting lights. So all those games that you play that have tons and tons of lights everywhere and really cool shadows, they're being very careful about what they're letting you see to optimize those lights, and they're actually tricking you with a lot of the shadows. There's a whole bunch of things going on in terms of baked in shadows and other things like that there aren't as many real-time shadows going on. When it comes to lights, less is going to be more, especially when it comes to casting shadows. Much less is more. As the more things that you have, more light sources that are all having to throw shadows, that's more things that the engine has to calculate in terms of is it lit up by that particular light. Then if so, how intense is it? And then how far is the shadow going to have to reach? Does that shadow just hit the ground? Does it hit other objects? How are we going to have to draw that out? And when you look at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lights all hitting something from different angles that are all going to have to cast shadows, the appropriate shadow behind that's a lot of processing to do. So less is more. for sure on those kinds of things. And there's a lot you can do in terms of using one big light that will cast a lot of shadows for you and a bunch of smaller lights to give you the look of what you're looking to do. Examples of that are the lights that we include on our lift hill lights, the little catwalk lights. Those ones are just little point lights, and they have their little halo of light effect, and they do cast some, they color the objects that go by. They're not casting shadows. We've optimized them already to give you the look and the effect of what you're looking for without making it hurt too much. So we're going to place some of these park lamps with a little spotlight built in. These are easy to place as well. You just go ahead, now that I've selected it, we're going to add the object. There we go, and you can see it's already got its little halo of light illustrated there. I'm actually going to rotate the light so that it's more kind of aimed alongside the path. Perfect. And we're going to add a few more of those. I know a lot of people have asked for a copy paste of objects. We're aware of that particular thing. We're always looking and thinking about various ideas that we can add in the future. There's no particular time frame for when we are going to be able to add things on that. We're always working on various ideas at various speeds and things like that come along. It's hard to say exactly when, again, that we're going to upload everything. We don't discuss timelines for things specifically because they change. We're trying to make the best product that we can. There's all sorts of factors that will go into the development of everything that we do, and because of that, it may very much drastically change throughout the process. And we don't want to promise, hey, we're going to have it out Tuesday. Tuesday comes and we're not ready. And we also don't want to promise certain features are going to go in because they may not. It may change. That particular feature may not be something that we're able to do effectively. Or there's other complications, or we may suddenly decide, we're going to put some other features inside instead that make more sense for our particular focus. So bear with us. It may seem like we go quiet for a long period of time. We know we do. We don't discuss things. We really just don't discuss them until we're ready. As the story goes, as we were developing NoLimits 2, there were a number of internal release dates, or release seasons, I guess, that we were thinking about trying to get there. And we blew past every single one of them. And some of the estimates of when we wanted to be finished, we went past it by a matter of a few years. So that's why we don't give any kind of a release date. I know lots of people would like to see the Mac version. I know lots of people want to see, when are you going to add RMC coasters? They're going to be, lots of people are asking, what are you going to add? Pick my favorite train or my favorite feature. When are you going to put all these things in there? Believe me, everything you've ever asked for, every single train, we make note of it. And we prioritize it, we decide what's going to make sense, and then when we can get around to adding what kinds of things at what points. So we'll put in what makes sense, and we'll let you know. Until then, asking us what is the update, we're not hiding any news about it. You didn't miss it. We didn't post it, especially when it comes to the Mac version. Mac version is taking some extra consideration, especially because Macs in general, they haven't really been focusing on strong graphics hardware lately. The most expensive Mac desktops kind of have that. The laptops do not. And as a result, since we need to have a lot more heavy graphics power, Macs just aren't as suitable for that kind of gaming. And that's a decision that Apple has made. It's an unfortunate one. It is the reality of the situation. And as a result, it makes it a lot more difficult for a simulator like ours to perform well on a Mac, just because Apple doesn't want to set up that particular kind of hardware. So we have concerns about how well everything we do would work on a Mac. All right, so I spent some time blathering on top there while I was placing a whole bunch of park lights, which look rather nice right now. So we're good to go. Now you notice these park lights are actually kind of nice. They automatically fell to the ground no matter what the ground was doing. A lot of these park objects are pre-built so that they automatically go to ground level, and they will go and fall to the ground level no matter what, including the trash cans, which even fell to one side, so they're not pointing straight up. These are all properties inside of the NL2 SCO objects that can either be told to go to ground level, or and just stay straight down, or they can go to ground level and tilt to follow exactly the curvature of the ground. Any number of features like that are all possible. You can also set the object to ignore what the ground is doing and not go to ground level so that you can place things how you want. All right, very good. So we have a bunch of lights around there. Let's go ahead and add some more lights, because now we want to talk about some of the spotlights and how to use those. The lighting is very sophisticated. We have a lot of options and NoLimits on how you can do lighting. We've got a nice big coaster here that could use some lighting to show off some of the really cool elements that it does. And we want to make sure that we're doing the lighting effectively in a way that's still going to perform well. So let's pick a few areas where we want to put some lights for a dramatic effect. and I'll show you how to use the basic spotlight to show off various elements of your coaster. So for now, this is going to be a good one. I think I'm going to want one right about in here. Actually, I'm probably going to want one over here that's going to aim up and hit the first part of the drop and this part here. So it's going to kind of go in this direction. So let's see how we do that. First thing, we did include a park light, or a light that's going to be good. Unlike some of the other ones, this one you're going to really want to customize quite a lot. You can customize any of the objects that you have in there. Just keep in mind if you're changing something in the library, A, you can't, and B, if you did, you would be adjusting it for every single park that's there, and you don't want to do that. Instead, you want to have one unique to your park. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to choose the object that I would like. I'm actually going to open up the NL2 SEO editor. I'm going to go to Lights, and I'm going to open one. Now these, you notice we're in the library, Scene Objects, Demo Objects, and Lights, right? I'm going to go down here to the Spotlight. Simple white spotlight, already set up in most of the ways that you usually want to get it. It's very cool. Now, of course, when I add this in here, I can just simply add this light, and it's the main generic spotlight. I can add it into the scene, no problem. But I don't want to change the default one. I want to keep that default. So instead, I'm going to take the one that I've opened here. I'm going to save as. And what we're going to do with saving as, we want to put it in the same folder with the rest of the park. So I've already got a folder here for Peninsula Park. I made a demo light earlier. I'm going to make another demo light now. So Demo Light 2, the sequel. The reason why you want to save it into the same folder with the park is so when you're making a package, it'll make a package of everything that's in that folder. It's all in one place, which is necessary, so you give everybody who's downloading it everything that's inside of that folder, so they'll have everything they need to run your particular park. So I've named my light, or my object. I'm placing it inside the same folder. I'm going to click Save. Okay, good. So now I have saved a spotlight there. I'm going to close, and now take a look what's going to happen. I do have the ability when I choose, I'm going to go to Park Base. The library is, of course, all the things we've given you. Home and File System allow you to browse around other folders. Park Base is everything that you've placed inside of the folder for your park. So there is Demo Light 2 that we just made. Very cool. I can open that up. So let's start looking at what we can do with that. So there's our sample light. It even comes with a little light object. I'm going to add it, and I'm going to place it right there. Okay. Very good. Let's go ahead and look at this light. Now, light is a very small object, can be kind of hard to spot. So for now, at least keeping the halo on makes it the volume allows you to see it a little bit better. I'm go ahead and get a split screen going here. Now, eventually I'm going to want to aim it up, but for now we'll just aim it this direction. So to show you a few properties of what you can do with the lights, since this is the light that I have copied, I will go ahead and start messing with it. And the NL2 SEO editor interface here, you can go to the Lights tab. This is the Spotlight, the Light, which is the default name of it. Let's go to the settings. You could add additional light sources in here, which would give you additional point lights. I'm not going to do that since I'd be adding an additional light, which I'd then have to couple to the orientation of the object itself, and it gets more complicated. You can create anything you want in here completely from scratch. For most users, it's going to be easier to take the existing one, make a copy of it, and then adjust from there. So the name of the light, we're going to call this our Demo Light Fantastic. There you go. So we have a few different options. The setup is custom for this one. You can either go with one that's built in from the 3D model, or this is our own custom light. The difference is that's properties from the 3D model that you've imported. Custom is going to be using the NoLimits 2 light engine itself. So we're going to keep with custom. Type, you have two different types of lights. One is a point light, that's an omni light. Basically, it's a giant sphere of light emanating from a specific source that casts light in all directions, a complete sphere of light. A spotlight is going to be a cone of light that you can aim in a particular direction. Point lights have no direction, they cast in every single direction. Spotlights will cast in a very specific direction, and you have a few more controls over that. We're going to keep this as a spotlight. Under common, you see here we have a few items. Effects only, meaning it's not going to illuminate other objects, has less impact on performance. So certain lights, you may just want to have a volume light like this that looks cool and does not actually light anything up. Maybe it's pointing up into the sky or a few other things. If you choose this box and turn it on, that means that this light is only going to look nice it will not actually light any objects up. It's not going to light up the floor. It's not going to light up coaster supports or anything like that. It just gives you this cone of light. And the nice thing about that is that you can create the effect of those lights without actually costing you any performance. This is what I was talking about when I mentioned how it's best to have one or two main sources of lights and then a few effect-only lights like this to make it look like you have 10 lights that are all lighting up one particular area. You really only have 2, but you have 10 different lights that are all kind of aimed at in different areas. So it looks like you have got this really complicated lighting scheme, when in reality we're only having the engine only has to calculate the lights from 1 or 2 sources. It's a lot better there. In this case, we do want it to actually light up this background, so we're going to turn that off. The halo effect, it's a specific effect when you're looking at the light. It'll give you an effect of kind of blurring the point of the light when you're staring directly at it. You can choose how big you want it to be, how round, the intensity of it, if it's a subtle one or it's a strong one, or turned off entirely. The volume effect, that's going to be how much you can see of it, like this. So if you turn the volume effect off entirely, like this, which I'll show you right now, I'm going to turn the volume off entirely, save it here. Notice after I've saved this particular light, I now need to reload it to make it change. So all we've done, the light is still there. It actually is going to still be lighting things up, but the volume of the light is no longer there, so we can't see that the kind of the fog inside of the light. But the light will still actually function. It will still be lighting up whatever it's aimed at, as you can see on the ground. You can see right here, we are still lighting up the ground and the grass. However, we don't see the light because we've turned off the volume. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on because the volume is kind of cool, at least to be able to spot it. Now with the volume effect, you can change the range of that. You can change how big it is, the intensity. You can change a few other things. For the spotlight, you can actually control the volume and the spotlight itself differently. With the spotlight, there's a few different angles. The angle is going to be the cutoff angle. That's going to specifically talk about how wide of a cone of light you're looking at here. So we didn't save the fact that we brought our cone back. Let me turn that back on so that you can see it. Okay. Oops. That's fine. I don't know why that went away. And we're going to save that and reload. There you go. So we have a very short cone, which does not look very good. Let's go ahead and open that up again. Sorry, it wiped out the save. So we're going to go ahead and give it 15 meters worth. That's good. Save. Reload. Nope, that was the wrong setting. All right. Oops, that's settings. What is the volume effect? Oh, the range. The size was the width of it that we were playing with. So 3 is fine. Let's go with 15 in the range. I chose the wrong one. Save. Reload. That makes more sense, and even the size is still too big, because that's if you're simulating a giant spotlight versus a very tiny point. So let's get back down to a size of 0.25, which will make more sense. Save, reload, boom, better. All right, now to what I was actually trying to demonstrate for you guys, the cutoff angle. So this is about a 30-degree angle of the light. You can see here if we increase that to say 75 degrees and save that. Reload, and there you go. Now you can see it's a much wider angle. The cutoff setting that you see in there, in terms of the spot exponent, this is going to be kind of how soft the edge is here. The values go between 1 and 128. If you choose the lowest value of 1, it's going to make the edge really, really hard. And then you end up with that. Nope, you do not end up with that. Where did it go? Did it go? Nope, the spot cutoff. This was working earlier. It's going to end up giving you a much harder edge versus if you went with the other end of it, which is going to have a much more gradual fall off. Reload it. Yeah, I don't think you see it as well because they're probably too high up. Yeah, it's a little bit better. It's probably because I have too wide of an angle on there. But you can see it's a little bit of a harsher. The idea is that it kind of feathers the edges of it and softens up everything. We'll go open that up though. Generally, you don't need to play as much with the exponent component. 25 is fine. And the cutoff angle, let's give it a little bit of a narrower. 35 degrees, probably a little bit better for what we need. Let's make sure that it's reaching quite a bit. We're going to give it, because it's a kind of a tall coaster, we're going to give it a 45 meter range. Intensity controls how bright the spot or the volume effect is going to be in terms of that one, so that's fine. The range of the light, that's 100 meters. That's what I want. Intensity is going to be from 0 to 1. 1 is full bright, 0 is not, is full off, and then somewhere in between is what you're going to go with. Color, you can choose any color you want, which is pretty cool. We can go with any color of the spectrum, and you can also use this pipette feature to pick any color you see on the screen, and it will go ahead with that particular color. So you click and hold actually, drag it anywhere you want on the screen, and pick any color that you see anywhere. So like if there's a particular shade of blue in the sky I want, I can let go right there, and whatever's underneath that pixel is now the selected color. It's pretty handy. So you can go with that. I'm going to actually stick to, I'll let the crowd decide what color should we make this light. Go ahead and type in your suggestion. We'll go ahead and choose the light for that, depending on what color you guys would like to see this light that we're going to light up our recreation here that we've entitled Keymaster. We'll see who the first suggestion is. The idea, again, you can manually enter the values for the lights if you want. You can do all sorts of various controls. These are actually getting a little more above my, I do not understand exactly what they are. But you do have a lot of the, I don't know what their abbreviations are going to be for. But I think it's a percentage. Okay, that's what it is. Gotcha. All right, and we have purple, brown, and we'll see if anybody else goes with something. First suggestion was purple. So I'll go with a nice purple in here. It looks like a fairly nice purple there. All right, so the color is purple. One thing you might want to do, because you're naming this particular type of light, is that we want to add to the name that it is going to be purple. If you made additional copies of this, you can name each one for each color light you have in there, so that way you know which light it is. And that way when you're looking through it, you can say, oh, here's my purple lights, here's my white lights. Because you'll make a lot of copies of that. I'm going to save that particular item there, and reload it. Now we are shooting off a kind of pinkish purple light. Very good. All right, so let's play with this light a little bit here that you guys have asked for, and we're going to aim it so we can light up our coaster. Let's rotate it there. We can aim in that direction. That's the direction I want it to go, so there it is again. Move it back here. And we want to aim it up. Now as you rotate, you notice of course that the gizmos in terms of these handles all work or rotate with it, although the XY stays absolute in terms of sliding it. Handy because you can now aim it up. That's generally the direction. I think I want it kind of going this way so I get both halves of that, so I'm going to move it a little bit more. The rest of this is just kind of aiming things. There we go. Nice this supports. It's a little hard to see exactly what I'm working on, so I'm going to go into File, Preferences for this particular one. Nope, that's not where I want to go. It's going to be under Park, Environment. I'm going to override the default date and time of what's going on. I'm going to change it to 2200 hours, 10 o'clock at night, and now it's a little easier to see what we're working on, where all the lights are, in terms of what it's lighting up. Sounds good. Doesn't look like it's that bright, and I'm quite hitting everything I want to hit at the moment, so let's see. Let's get back into the scenery editor there. And the lights, settings, range, intensity. Let's get a little bit 250 in terms of the range. There we go. Halo effect is fine. There we go, and it's going to, all right, we're going to save that. And then you want to reload so that you see the change immediately. There we go. Now I can see that I'm actually hitting that. Now the light does, of course, wear off over distance. The further away from the light you get, the weaker it gets in terms of how much it's actually lighting things up, just like you would expect it to. So I do want to kind of add some light so I'm hitting both edges of that. I'm not aimed at the coaster anymore. There we go. In fact, I'm probably going to actually make it wider. So settings, let's go ahead and expand the range of it here. So the range, let's go about 400 meters. That'll definitely get everything that we need to get and make it a little bit easier to see what we need to see. Okay. Okay, I think we maybe aimed too steep as part of the problem. There we go. Okay, now we're actually aimed at a couple pieces of the coaster that I was trying to light up. A little bit further down. All right, so we have that light, and we're just going to go ahead and light the whole coaster. Oops, save that thing. We did make changes to it, so drag a box so I can find it. There it is. Reload it. Okay, we made changes. Good. Now I'm going to go ahead, now that, since we were making the change to that particular object the whole time in the park base, it's demo light 2 was the name of the NL2 SEO itself, so that's the one I'm going to want. I'm going to add a few more of those. Those are the ones that were purple. I didn't name the whole thing, I named kind of the light itself, so, but I'm going to add a few more of these around so that I can use them along the way to light up our coaster in a few different key areas. And that should be enough to play with for now. And we'll add one over here. Okay, now it's just a matter of aiming everything the way I want to get it to aim and light up our coaster in purple. And whoever decided that they wanted brown lighting, I don't know what you would be, why you'd want to light a coaster in brown. It'd actually be very hard to see. So just clicked off of that. There you are. Let's move you over here. I can't aim this one up the lift. There we go. So this is just a matter of kind of doing what you want to make it look however you'd like to have it look, and make it look kind of neat and cool, which is always what we're looking for in our No Limits coasters, make them look as neat and cool as you can. There we go. That's better. That looks pretty cool. Okay, and we want to highlight all the various elements of the ride. Get lots of people looking at it, so I'm going to place one over here inside of the helix. So this light over here. I'm going to make it a little bit brighter and easier to see, so I'm going to go into the environment again, and rather than 2200, let's just make it 7 p.m. 1900. So now it's getting darker. You can see the effect of the lights pretty well, but it's not so dark that you can't see what I'm actually working on. So let's get this particular light here. Click, click. These guys are really tiny and hard to work with sometimes. I'll just pull it that way. There we are. And we're going to put it inside the helix. Really cool. Now again, these little light boxes are kind of floating there, so sometimes you might want to take a look at it and figure out how you can better, I guess, hide it or maybe attach it to an object or something to make it look like it's actually not just floating in space. Real life coasters do tend to aim the lights at the ground level and aim upward, as you can see in a lot of the parks. So we're just going to go through here and add a few lights. And I'll just light everything up so that you can see it all and make it look kind of nifty, cool. And then we'll take a look at the camera angles as we go and finish up for the last part of our broadcast, since we've got about half an hour left. Hope everybody's been having a good weekend, and that's been quite some time since we've had one of these live sessions. Hopefully everybody has been enjoying and learning a lot from them. No Limits really can do a lot. You know, we've really built a very sophisticated program here that's really less a game. It's very much what we intended it to be, a professional tool. And not because we're aiming specifically at the pros, just all the various features that we're including are very professional in their nature. There's a lot of things that go into how it all works and how it works for all the way all these controls are going to work to come up with a good solid program. Right. So in the process of that, it ended up being, I wouldn't want to say less user friendly. It's just a matter of, to do all of the things that we're going to do, it's not quite the Lego drag and drop, put a bunch of preset pieces interface in there that some of the other editors use. And that's okay. You know, we were looking to do more and offer a lot more creative freedom. It's a lot like the differences between, say, Photoshop and Microsoft Paint. Microsoft Paint's much easier to use and can't do as much, but it's much more easy to just start clicking and doing things. In the other one, in Photoshop, you can do anything. It's just harder to do because the controls take more time to understand really what they're trying to do and what they're trying to accomplish. So let's see, what kind of dramatic lighting are we going to do with the keyholes here? I think I'm going to aim these perfectly vertically. You can use this interface also to aim things up and down. Let's see, is this going to go up to 90? Nope, that's not what I wanted. 90, nope, not what I wanted. 90, that's what I was looking for, okay. So we've got a vertical one. I think this is going to be fun here. That's ideas for this. We're going to blend it right along the wall there. Not too far north. That's pretty cool there. And you can do a lot of really cool things with lighting in general once you find it. And remember, of course, less is more. Unless you have a really powerful computer. Remember, other people that don't have powerful computers are going to use it, so less is always more. And preferred to, get by with whatever's going to be the minimum to get the effect that you're looking for versus trying to go for everything that you might want. Because you do have to keep in mind that, like I was mentioning before, there is a cost to everything that you're planning to do in terms of performance. But if you balance that out correctly, you can get a lot of what you're trying to do and make it look really cool. There we go. So maybe I'm going to give a different colored spotlight for the middle of that. What color spotlight should go in the middle? Not brown. While you guys are thinking about that, I'm going to aim the last one. Last purple light. So oops, wrong one. I want that. Of course, I asked the question well in advance of when I think I'll get an answer because of the delay, the live streaming delay that happens. There we go. Put that over there. Put that over there. Let's see if we have any answers. Any suggestions on what color we should light the inside of the keyhole element with? Anything at all? We're going to go ahead and lower that some. Not quite aimed how I want it yet. There we are. Perfect. Make sure I'm not actually going to run into that with the train when I go through. Actually, probably higher is better for that one. Or I'll just put it further back. I like it lower to the ground. Wing coaster trains are always very interesting to work with because they're so wide and they sit below the track level, so it's a little tricky to really imagine where they're going. Green light. We have requested a green light in the middle. Okay. Perfect. So we have the suggestion of going with a green light in the middle. So we go back to our scenery tab. We're going to add our object. We have our demo light 2, which is what we were working with. So I'm going to add demo light 2 and plop it in the middle. There we go. And we're going to also aim that one up. So I'm going to get that one selected. There it is. And we want it up. Good. Okay, so we wanted green, so we're going to head to our scenery tab. We're going to go to our SEO editor right there, settings, and we're going to change the color to green. Okay, and we are going to now save it, and we're going to reload. And what happened? All my lights turned green. Why is that? Well, I just changed the exact same light for all of them, which is not what I wanted to do. I only wanted to change one. So how do we avoid that? First, let's go ahead and change that back to purple. Good. So all of our lights are going to be purple again. Good. We're going to save that. So that's that particular one. But now, of course, we wanted to change the overall object itself. Here's where you change the whole item name, path, simple description, 3D model. So here is the save as. That was demo light 2. We need to make demo light 2 green as a separate object. There we go. So this one should be the green one. And now we're looking at green. This is demo light 2. So actually, it's still an example of demo light 2. We're going to have to delete that one. And all the other ones, which haven't changed yet. Let's go back to the SEO editor. That's right. I changed the light to purple. It is purple again. Now I need to save the object, reload. Now they're all back to purple. Good. And now when I'm going to go, I need to choose a different object. There it is, green. So I have a different object. Now when I add this one, it's still purple because that's what it was last set at. We're going to go rotate it so it faces up. And now because this is a different object, it's the one that's labeled green. When I go in the editor and the lights, I can change the settings of this one. It's actually going to be green. Tell it apart, color, the green what we chose. There we go, and I'm actually going to change this to be a little bit wider. There's the cutoff angle. I'm going to go with 50 to make it nice wide light. There we go. Save that. Reload, and now you're left with a green light, which I made wider. So that's the trick, is that you can have all sorts of instances of one particular light. You can change something about that particular light, and that particular instance, and every one of those instances will change and update with it. You wanted to change the color of one of your lights, make a different object, set that up, and you are good. So there we have a green light in the middle of the purple. And actually, I want to get the inside of these walls to be green, so let me just lower it further to the ground. And I put it into the ground so I can't get to it. There we go. Let's back to our editor, lights, settings. Really want to make this one a stronger one. It's got plenty of intensity, plenty of light. I want to get the volume effect. That's fine. Intensity, let's make it a little more intense. At 5, range, we're going to go with 60. And the angle, let's make it a little bit higher. And we want to go with the cutoff angle. Let's make that even wider, so 60 degrees. So it really gets a nice wide one. And if I'm doing it right, then there we go. Now we got much better fog that we're going to pass over. And I think both tracks are illuminated green. They are perfect. Okay, good. All right, so we've added a lot of lights there. I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit darker first so we can show off all these lights. And we're going to go to the park tab, and we're going to go to the park settings, or the environment, I'm sorry, one more time. Let's go ahead and make that 2200 so that it's night. Good. Save that, and let's take a look at what this looks like. What all of our work here looks like in play mode. Okay, and what is going on with the lights? I don't know why I'm getting those errors at the moment. And probably because I have messed something up in here. Nope, I've got all my lights, so I don't know. It's probably one of these objects that I'm looking at an older version of that for some reason. Alright, but essentially, although I got some strange errors which I'll have to investigate later, we see all of our lighting is working. You know, the white supports are turning a nice color depending on what's nearby, which looks really nice. We got park lighting going on here. You can see the animated lights here look rather nice, which is really cool. And everything's good. You can see all the platforms are coming together. We have our sea of trash cans, which is very important. Probably a nice spotlight on the Ferris wheel would have been nice, but we'll do that later. Just for now, we can kind of bask in the glory of all of our cool lighting and see how neat everything looks as the train is roaring around through all of the elements. So we have some nice, and the train should be reacting to the lights as it goes overhead, which is very cool. Looks very nice. There you go. That's so pretty. Let's see what you guys want on for the green, and go from purple, green, back to purple. Very nice. So it looks kind of cool as it enters in there. Once again, we're going to be going from purple lighting on the way in, green, and purple on the way out. So lots of cool stuff you can do with the lighting that really makes it interesting and really add a lot of life to your scene. And careful use of the lights like that can really add a lot. Overuse will certainly bog down performance, especially when you start adding multiple coasters all over the place. So less is always more, and that's the way we want to look at it. So I did want to focus a little bit more on the cool camera angles that are available in the various options. To better show those off and see what we're actually talking about, I'm going to update the park to be, no, not that one. I always confuse those two buttons. Back to being more in the daytime, so we're going to change it to the afternoon where it'll look nice. There we go. We're going to save that, and now we're going to go back into play mode, and I'm going to get a list of errors again for some reason. That's okay. The lights up. I don't know why I'm getting that, because I got rid of that one. Anyways, here we are in basic ride mode. There's many different modes that you have to walk around and or to view your coaster in various ways. We are starting off, this coaster I've configured to start in ride mode so that you start in a seat. The default buttons to change around there, you can use the V button to change between the seats on any particular car. This car has 4 seats. You start in seat 1, which is always the furthest to the right. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Change that. The C button will change cars. So we're in car 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is an 8-car train. Hit it again, back to the front. And then finally, with the T button, we'll change between trains. So right now we're in train number 1, the first one that went out. We're going to change train 2, which is loading, train 3, which is waiting to get in. Back to train 1. Those are the basics. Now you change the camera view, or the type of camera that you're using by using the E button. We'll change the type of camera. So we're going to hit the E button once, and we are in Fly View, which you can see in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. It tells you what view you're in. Fly View is very straightforward. It's just simply a matter of using the W, S, A, and D buttons and the mouse. You can aim and just fly around any way you want. Holding down Shift will help you fly faster. Holding down Control will help you fly slower. So you can do all kinds of interesting passes. This is good when you want to do things like this kind of a pass right here, where I'm just kind of floating freely. And I'm going to let the coaster go by because I'm going a little faster than it. Doing things like that. While you're in fly mode, you can also use two other keys. You can use the X button to go down, and the space button to go back up. So those are the basics of flying. Now when you're flying, in your particular fly mode, you can alternate between two different modes actually. It's fly mode and walk mode. If you hit Q, you can toggle between fly mode and walk mode. If I hit Q, I am now in walk mode, or walk view, and I've just fallen to the ground and killed myself. Excellent. Now you can't actually die in NoLimits. So this does drop you down to the height of a normal person walking around. And these are where you really see a lot of your coolest angles of the ride. And it really looks so realistic when you're walking around this height, because you really get a sense for exactly what everything looks like, and that just how massive these coasters are. It really puts them in a good perspective. A lot of people, they like to use fly mode, and they'll go from this kind of an angle, and they'll look at it from here, and they'll be kind of looking down at the ground, and they kind of see this. And these are angles that you can't really get unless you're in a drone flying around. This is not an angle you normally get to see as a person, and it kind of makes the coaster look smaller and a little bit different. So screenshots from these kinds of angles look a little bit less impressive because they're just generally kind of too high, and yes, they show the layout, but they don't really show the scope and the scale of what you're looking at. Instead, when you do things like drop into walk mode, and you're looking at it really from the ground level perspective, now you see just how big everything is, and you can really get a sense for just how high and how massive these trains are. I'm going to fly over here just to run up next to it again. Oops. So you get to see cool things like this, where the train is just really huge as it goes by. And it gives you a much more sense of the scale that we've worked so hard to get correct in this, to really show just how monstrous the ride is. And if you're higher than ground level, you don't get that same sense of just how big everything is. So we really do like the ground level view like that, to really show off how massive everything is. And taking screenshots down here really does add a lot, because you get that I'm standing on the ground next to this creation angle. That looks just fantastic, looks absolutely phenomenal. That looks a lot better than the I'm kind of in the middle of floating in space here, that there is no real place that I could take this picture from. So that's that one. That's walk view and fly mode. Let's take a look at the next view that we have available, which is fly by view. This is a lot of people's favorite view for POVs. By default, when you enter into flyby view, it starts off in the perfectly centered view in whichever car you're in. When you're in flyby view, you can no longer change seats. You're just in a specific spot on the train. You can change cars. And you can, of course, change trains. So where does this come in handy? I'm going to go back to the front car here. Flyby view keeps you in a very specific, wherever you want it to be in relation to the car, and you will continue to flip around and do whatever the car is doing. But you can control exactly where you want to place it. So this is where you can get all kinds of interesting angles like this, where you're looking at the car. You can move around. You can still move up and down, left and right, forwards and backwards, again, all in relation to whatever the car is doing, which allows you to keep a stationary view of that particular car. And you can change cars. You can go further in like that. You can hover over one particular spot of the wing, get really cool angles like that. You can also do really cool stuff like sit here and look at the wheels, something that you would not normally ever get to do in real life. So you can watch that, go to one of the trains that's going around. So these are angles that it's just, you can't do this. You can't see these in real life unless you've got a GoPro mounted somewhere. So lots of cool creative things that you can do with it to really show off a whole bunch of really unique angles for videos and for photos. And it's just a matter of just kind of exploring around and exploring the creativity of what's possible. So you can do all kinds of crazy things. You can fly way back from it and get all really interesting views. But remember, you're going to be locked to doing whatever the car is doing. So when the car rolls over, your view of it from this far away also rolls over. Now what if you'd like to have something similar to that, but you do not want to follow exactly what the car is doing? You would prefer to have more of a stationary point of view, which is really good for showing off the spinning or the swinging or the seats flipping on a 4D. That's what the next view is for. And we're going to hit it again. We're going to switch to Pursuit View. Let's go to the next train here, which is currently going down the drop. So this time I'm doing the same kind of thing where I'm locked to a specific car in terms of what I'm doing. Change the front car there. I'm locked to whatever that front car is doing, but now you notice that I don't actually change the orientation of the camera based on what it's doing. So it just kind of seems to roll through space and staying centered in the frame, but the camera is not flipping and doing these rolls and turning around. It's not even following it in the direction it goes. This view is particularly handy, again, for spinning coasters, swinging coasters, 4D, where you do not want to flip the camera with the seats. You just want to kind of show the action like that. It's got a lot of good potential uses. Very creative things. Shots like this are certainly possible, although you have to be careful because sometimes you end up flying through the track like that. Very cool stuff there. So very much comes in handy. I'm going to switch once again to the next train going over the top. We got one more view to show you, and that is Target View. This is one of our favorites. Target View has a lot of cool things that you can do, and this one we do also have the ability to do. Basically, Target View locks the camera to one particular point in space and stays focused on the train wherever the train happens to go. And you'll be looking at the particular car you have chosen. I'm on the first car right now. Actually, usually looks better for videos one if you're following the third car or the fourth car, somewhere a little bit down the train a bit, so you kind of get a better view. Target View comes in two flavors. This is the one where it's automatically zooming to match the train. So as the train gets closer, it kind of zooms back out. As the train gets further away, it zooms in. We turn that off. Automatic zoom is off, so now we don't even view that. We're just kind of like looking at it from, say, the Sky Tower or something like that. So we just keep it in frame no matter what, but we're not getting any closer to it. We switch with the letter Q once again. Now we've gone back to zooming in, and as we get closer and further away, you can see what it does. In NoLimits 2, we also added a really cool thing with Target View. Before, Target View was very much locked to exactly where you left the camera. You couldn't do anything different with it. Now in NoLimits 2, you can move the position in Target View using the mouse cursor keys, or not the key, WASD and space. And this also allows for a lot. I'm just zooming in or holding towards it, so now I'm just moving closer to the car in its direction. Really cool stuff available that way. Now, of course, it's left wherever I've left it, but I can move in there to kind of follow it. I can also move sideways, go down, go up. Lots of different cool views like that, where you can just kind of keep spinning around the train wherever it's going. Back up to the next train in motion. It also allows for a really cool Alfred Hitchcock type of effect, the dolly zoom when you line things up right. Or you can kind of, whoops, it went under the ground there. I'm going to get in front of it for that cool effect. I'm just kind of playing around at this point, but you can kind of get the idea that a lot of neat things are possible, especially if the train is stationary. Zoom. A lot of nice things like that are done. Now this one does kind of have a hard stop when the train, when you let go of the key, it just immediately stops. It doesn't kind of zoom along. So take that into account. You don't want to, as you're filming, you don't want to do that and then stop and then stop and then stop and then let go of the key. Keep the motion going the entire time, and when you edit your video, only use the fully cut together one. This will be a better way of showing off the Alfred Hitchcock thing. So in terms of the zoom, I'll go down a little bit. Watch, check this out. We're going to go, whoa. And you can hold down Control and Shift to go slower or faster as well. Let's go to the second train that's loading. This will be a little bit easier to do. So you kind of get, the cool thing is when you're in the zoom version of it, then as you get closer to it, it gives you the whole, vertigo look of zooming right on the train. There we go, in the first car. And try and place the camera, Target View at the edge of this. There we go. If I've done this, line this up correctly, which I almost have, this is going to look really cool. All right. Yeah, so you can do all kinds of cool tricks like that with the camera, taking advantage of the fact that it zooms in. While you're flying toward it, it's also zooming. Lots of cool camera tricks like that. All kinds of cool things you want to do. Really, the imagination, the sky's the limit. It's all with your imagination for what you want to do with it. One big thing to point out, by the way, this is super critical when it comes to filming videos. Right-click will show and hide the mouse cursor. I can't tell you how many videos we look at that this is what we're seeing. Writing the POV of it, or we have various views, and there's a mouse cursor there, and then the next shot, it's over here, and it's over here, and it's over there, and it's incredibly distracting. When you start filming, right-click, get rid of that mouse cursor. It just hides it. Unless you're just specifically trying to show people the interface of something, hide the mouse cursor. Speaking of that, I'm going to go back into Fly View and show some more of the interface. Hitting F7 brings up the view panel. We have a number of different things that are available for you here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I want to reset this park, so I'm going to close it and because I need it to be daytime again. I'm going to go back to the editor environment. I need to go to 10 in the morning so that we have more daylight hours. It'll be a little easier to see what we're talking about here. And then leave the editor. We're going to go back into play mode now. All right, so I'm going to show the various options that are available on the view panel. There's additional cool camera effects that are available to everybody. Make that go away. All right, actually, let's go back to the ride mode here. Ride view. So there are a few different things that are available to you when you are riding the coaster. One is the ride view shake effect. I'll go ahead and turn everything off for now. Lens flare, by the way, you can see it on screen right now. If I uncheck that, it goes away. People who are doing VR do not like that, so they can turn it off right there. We've kept it since the NoLimits 1 days. We like it. It looks neat, but if you don't like it, gone. All right. Ride view shake effect. This is going to be whether or not it's simulating a kind of a shake or a roughness to the coaster. So say this coaster was made out of really old wood. We can turn that on, and when we get to the faster points, you can see that the camera kind of shakes as if this was a rougher coaster. There you go. You can see it's kind of quaking around a little bit. Move to the second car so you can kind of see it a little bit better. So I'm kind of shaking, right, at high speeds. If you undo that, now we're back to glass smooth, normal B&M. Next is the ride view spring damper effect, which this kind of adds a little bit of, as forces change, it kind of bumps your head around a little bit, kind of working with that, so that it kind of evens things out. And in combination with the shake, shake is just plain too violent. It does add some subtle effects so that it feels a lot more like your head is kind of bobbing around a little bit, and it's not purely locked exactly to what the seat is doing. So it's the difference between simulating a camera mounted directly on the car and kind of a human's point of view. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the ride view look ahead effect. And that is pretty cool. So right now, we don't have that turned on, and we're just looking straight forward no matter what. With ride view look ahead effect on, now the camera moves to kind of look in the direction of the track, something that we as riders naturally do all the time. It's a nice little effect where it just kind of follows ahead and looks ahead of the track to see where it's going on. This does take into effect speed, so the faster you're going, the further down the track you're going to look. The slower you're going, the closer to where you are you're going to look. So you can see the camera's just kind of moving to turn. If there's a turn to one side, it automatically looks ahead to where that's coming from. Keymaster, does not really show much of that. The Helix, you'll probably see more. You'll see a quick look to the left as we get to it. So we as riders naturally do this, and you can have that effect simulated in NoLimits quite well. Very nice effect. You'll see it the best on this train when it gets ready to leave the station as it moves ahead. So let's go ahead and speed up time so we can see that. There we go. So now you're going to see it look further off to the right. And then it's going to straighten, and you'll see it look up the lift hill in just a second as we get closer to that. There you go. It's kind of subtle, but it's looking back up the lift hill because it knows that we're coming up to that. And as we crest the lift hill, you'll start seeing the camera aim down a little bit further. Once we get there, it'll speed up so we can get there a little bit faster. And see, right there, it's just started to look down. And as we approach this drop element here, it starts to look down because it knows, or in the direction of where we're going to be. It's just a nice little subtle effect that helps the realism of the simulation of riding it as a person. Now, certain coasters will not use the ride view look ahead effect, such as the spinning coaster, the 4D, and the flying coaster, mostly because the orientation of the rider is such that you're not really able to look at where the track is, so we don't try on those particular ones. Especially on the spinning coaster in 4D, you're looking in every other possible direction. Rather than have the camera adjust for things you can't see where you're going, it just doesn't work on those particular styles, which is fine. All right, so let's go into the fly view for our next one. We're going to look at a fly view collision detection, by the way. That allows me to either fly through the track like that, or if I turn it on, to not fly through it. You know, I can actually go past the track like that, or the trains. If I try to, I bump into them. I tend to leave that off because I want to get away with things that are a little more interesting and just try and get through stuff faster like that. But if you did have it on, I believe it would also keep you from doing what I was doing earlier, which is flying to the ground. So, good things there. Next up, we have the depth of field effect. This is particularly cool. This simulates the idea that you're focusing on something really close by blurring things in the background. This particular photographic effect is achieved with certain kinds of lenses. So we're currently, I'm going to turn the intensity way up to exaggerate it like crazy. Okay, so we're looking off in the distance right now, and you can kind of see that we're looking way into the distance of what we're talking about. And the track that was nearby, I'm moving too fast for my own good, you can see the track here is very blurry. It's because it's not in the center of the frame, so we're focusing on something further back. If I angle down, so now I'm looking at the foreground track, you see that that's now nice and sharp focus, and the background is blurry. This is pretty cool. You can get some really interesting effects, and it kind of even can make things look like models, so that everything about in this area is in focus, everything that's further away is not. Comes in handy. Where this does not look good is going to be if you are riding the ride in the front seat, and I'll show you why in just a moment. Kind of looks fine here because you have something in the foreground you're focusing on, the background's blurred. This looks cool. It's when you're in the front seat, especially if you're going to switch over to the flyby view, that once you have it reset from scratch and you're kind of in the middle and you're looking at it, and I'll show you the problem here in just a second. Now you're going to see where this looks pretty crummy, which is if you're leaving the depth of field effect on for the entire POV ride, as track is either in the middle of the screen or away from the screen, it either goes blurred or in focus throughout, and that really looks silly. It doesn't achieve the effect that you're trying to do. Instead, it kind of makes things either let you see further in advance or they blur and it looks rather kind of silly. So do not recommend using it for a full uncut POV. Just let it look wherever you want. The purpose of this kind of depth of field is to put into focus exactly what you want people to focus on. You know, real life photographers and cinematographers do this all the time. They're using depth of field to blur the backgrounds or possibly the foregrounds so that whatever's in focus is what they want to draw your eye to. So when it's used properly, like if we are going to switch back to the ride view and you're back here, now I'm constantly focusing on this car in front and everything else is in the background. So your eye is naturally drawn to the things that are in focus and it's ignoring the background because it actually kind of makes it pop out of the screen at you, especially for an image. It really comes in handy that way. It is less effective when it's constantly shifting around unless you deliberately want to keep drawing people's eyes around the screen to different things. And if it's doing it somewhat randomly, it really takes away its effectiveness. All right, last thing I'm going to go ahead and show you guys here is the field of view, and this is quite simply how zoomed in or far away things look. This is going to be if you're going with a more of a telephoto focused approach or further wide angle. The telephoto focus, things seem to be magnified because you're looking at a much more narrow view of it and you kind of zoom in. It's kind of like a zoom lens that you'd have on a camera. For the wide angle, you can see much wider scope of things. With the wide angle side of it, you actually see a lot more going around. It does kind of distort the image to an extent and kind of makes things look a little more exaggerated, especially around the edges. But you do have a wider view. Like you look at this point, I can actually see, let me look at a better way to explain this here. We're going to go with the flyby view. There we go. This will be better. And change to the front car. And change trains to the one that's about to go up the lift hill. All right, so I can go here, and the widest the wide angle, I'm going to set up the camera so that you can see that's just barely filling. see the entire train, right? But you see it gets very exaggerated around the outside edges. This is because in reality I'm very close to this front bumper. A wide angle lens does this, where it makes things kind of, allows you to see more things, but it kind of pushes them further away. Now if I zoom in about normal, you can see that I was actually pretty close to the train and I've lost the outside edges, but I have a closer view of what's in the middle. If I go all the way in, now I'm really zoomed in and I don't have the outside angle at all, but it also things look a little less distorted. So if I were to back out, now I have the whole train again and the outside seats are much more in focus. Different kinds of effects depending on what you're attempting to accomplish. All kinds of options that allow you to do a lot of various neat stuff. Chromatic aberration effect, by the way, that's going to be something that will mostly show in video. An extra little touch of realism. It's hard to point it out. What it's going to do is around the outside edges of the screen, it's going to make it seem like the colors don't quite line up. It's kind of difficult to explain if you're not into photography and into that kind of stuff. You're not going to see it per se. It's just an extra little touch of realism. That's one of the subtle things that adds a lot to the overall scene for you. So there we go. That covered a lot of different topics. We covered lighting. We covered adding rides into the park using the pre-made things. We covered the various camera angles and some of the just showing the various options that are available for some of the cool things you might want to think about doing the next time you're taking a video or taking some screenshots of your coaster. It's all about presenting the amazing creation you have put together, making your photos and screens of it look as appealing as possible and interesting as possible, so that you can really just gain extra interest. I've seen that a lot of people like to show off or do show off their coasters on YouTube and in image galleries and things like that in ways that you aren't able to necessarily to people who don't have the program, so they can't go ride it themselves. So presentation really does count for a lot when it comes to NoLimits. There's a lot of things that you can do in the presentation of it, especially in the videos, that you can't do otherwise when you're just walking around there in the editor and in the game. So it's very important to just be creative with it and come up with whatever you want it to do. So many different cool options are available to you. Make use of all those tools and you can come up with really cool videos which allow you to win contests like Roundup 100 and the upcoming Roundup 150. All of those things put together with some creative thinking and some nice music allow you to come up with a really cool presentation that gets everybody interested. That's going to pretty much do it for this week. I'll take a couple of questions from the crowd if anybody has any questions, comments, or suggestions. As for when everything's coming out, what we're working on, we address that. If you have any other questions of things that you're interested in, let me know. We got a couple minutes left before I'm going to end the broadcast. As always, we are going to put the upload of this particular live broadcast will go into our YouTube channel for archiving, so people can look at it again later and enjoy everything that we have just spoken about and see everything and just kind of use it for future reference. So we're going to have time for any last questions. We'll see if anybody has anything that they would like to ask before we call it quits for this particular session. Waiting to see if anything comes in. It doesn't look like we're going to get anything in. This was kind of a quieter one. No, we didn't have quite as much notice on it. We're also nearing the end of vacations and school starting, so people are probably getting pretty busy with other things. That's okay. Everything will be archived for future reference and future viewing. Hopefully this series has been quite educational for people, and they really learn how to get the most out of all the various functions and features NoLimits has to offer. Learning how to place everything and really use everything to the extent and get the most out of it. Thank you very much, everybody, for being fans and supporters of NoLimits. We certainly do appreciate it. We wouldn't be here, and we had not have been doing this for as many years as we have if it weren't for you guys and the support that you've given and all the encouragement. So thank you very much. Have yourselves a good rest of the weekend and the rest of the year. We'll certainly schedule another one of these again soon when we have some more topics to discuss. Hope everybody has a great day, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.